Hello YouTube. So today we are going to be looking at a movie that is based off of a very well-selling book and has had many film adaptations, even one with one of my favorite actors, Gene Wilder. And I have never heard of this story, ever, until this point. So, yeah. Expect a lot of comparisons to the novel that I haven't read here. So yeah, so if you guys do want a more comparison-like review, go check out Amad. He compares the movie to the book quite a bit, but yeah, you won't be finding that here, so if you're disappointed about that, leave. For the rest of you, let's get into it. So the story of this movie is about a little girl, yes, that is her name, the little girl. I checked IMDb to see what her real name was. They just call her the little girl. And her overly controlling mother, called the Mother. Again, that I checked IMDb for the name. Just the Mother. Very, very specific names here. So, this little girl and her mother are trying to get into this school, which asks her what she wants to be when she grows up, and she answers wrong because her mother was overprepared and apparently did not expect anyone asking a different question. So, yeah, they don't accept her. But then they decide to go to Plan B to get her into the school, which is moving right next to it, so then they can get in there. How is that gonna work? Like, their plan here is if we move next to it, if we move into the same street, then we'll have to go to it. That's not how it works. You can move next to a college. It doesn't mean that you're gonna get accepted into that college. Seriously, why were they thinking that this would work? But apparently it does later on, so I guess I'm the idiot. And they get a house very cheap because of the neighbor, the aviator, who is some weird old man who has apparently really changed up his apartment. Seriously, his apartment is the only one who's this big. Was this place built before this whole entire apartment complex area came in with all these small houses and everything? Like, was his house built before that? I really want to know, or did he just specifically make his house different? Did he talk to the people making the house and said, no, you gotta make it like this instead? I want to know how he got to get his house like that. Like, I want to know. But, pretty much, yeah, they're next to some nut job, but at least they got the house cheap. So then the mother comes up with a very detailed plan about every step of this little girl's life. Okay, for one, there's being excessive, and then there's this lady, and two, who plans every detail of your kid's life? Seriously, they don't just plan ahead for the summer here. She says every year of your life. So yeah, this little girl is gonna have to follow this plan every day of her whole life. Who comes up with that? Alright, so yeah, she's planning for everything in this kid's life and expects nothing to mess it up, apparently. So yeah, her kid just goes along with this. Guess I would too. Or I wouldn't. Okay, so yeah, this kid's going along with this. That is until the aviator tries to start the plane in his backyard. He has a plane in his backyard. Totally normal. So, yeah, he tries to start that up, and amazingly, this doesn't go well, and one of the propellers crashes through their house. So, yay, now he's got to pay for property damage. Woo! And, yeah, when the police come to question him about this, he just gives them a jar of pennies. Is that valid? I mean, like, okay, there's a lot of pennies in there, but still, that was quite a lot of property damage you did there. You messed up their lighting, you broke some of their walls, you dented some of the walls. Surprised you didn't break the windows. You destroyed quite a lot there. You also destroyed their fence. You don't need to pay for that, no? No, you're just gonna give them a jar of pennies and it'll be okay. Alright, whatever. But luckily, the kid has taken care of every precaution that would need to be taken care of in this. Even taking photos of the crash. I guess that could be needed. So, yeah, then her mother just sets the life plan thing up again, I guess overnight. And, yeah, the daughter gets back to doing that. That is until the aviator gives her a letter about the little prince. And she throws it away. But then later on, she decides, while she's going through the pennies, apparently the aviator put little prince things in there because why not? Did he know a kid would be getting this? Did he just expect to break someone's house and give them this jar of pennies so then they can hear the rest of his story? Is that what he wanted to happen? But apparently some of these things also draw blood, so yeah. I'm guessing if it went to any other kid, they would have been pretty pissed at him. So, yeah, then she just up and decides, well, I got a few figures of these things, might as well read the rest of the story. So, she continues reading on about the little prince who was on a planet that was slightly bigger than him, and yeah, if he didn't tend to it all the time, then it would be overgrown by trees. I'm more curious as to where he got the farming tools. He doesn't seem to ever leave that planet. He's the only one there. And yeah, he doesn't even have a house, and the whole entire area is barren. So yeah, where did he get this? But anyway, yeah, he somehow can farm this land because it's necessary to the story. And one day there's a new plant growing on this planet because it just came here from the air and space, I guess. And he decides, well, I usually spend most of my time destroying plants, but I guess this one I'll tend to because it's different. So, yeah, he decides to work on this rose, and once it blooms, he just sits around talking to it because that's what normal people do with flowers. So then that's pretty much the end of his story part. So she goes back to the aviator to hear the rest of it, and he starts telling her, well, then this rose got very vain and needy, and he got annoyed at her, so he just sort of left on birds. Don't know how he did that. And he just went around visiting random planets. Because I guess that's what you do when you leave on birds. He didn't just decide to let go of the birds. Yeah, he is trying to get back to the rose here, which I still don't understand. He got annoyed at the rose. Why would he want to return to it? And yeah, he pretty much made up his mind about that while he was leaving. He could have just done this. Let go of the birds! Wow! That could have solved all of this! Never came to his mind, I guess. Also, why did those birds have, like, a rope on them? What was with that? Was someone trying to carry coconuts again? Okay, so yeah, he visits some random planets until he gets to Earth, where he meets up with the snake who says pretty much, hey, you want me to kill you? And he pretty much decides, maybe later. So, yeah, he meets up with a fox then, who pretty much just says, tame me, although I don't want to be tamed. So yeah, you're telling him to tame you, but you don't want to be tamed. Makes sense. Sounds like he really wanted this, though. So eventually, after like a day's effort, I guess, he tames the fox, and they're best friends now until the little prince decides to leave because he didn't want to hang out with the fox anymore. And he still needs to find his stupid little flower. So he goes off to continue finding it, and somehow ends up in the Sahara Desert. How? So yeah, he got to the Sahara Desert somehow. I still don't get why he hasn't just left Earth yet. Really? What happened to your birds? But anyway, yeah, he still hasn't left, and he meets up with the aviator, who he asks to draw him a sheep. He draws him a brick, and he accepts it. So, yeah, that offering of the brick made them best friends now. And they go look for a well because they're out of water. And they eventually do find a well. And then the aviator's plane is fixed later. And the little prince deciding, well, even though I know the aviator has an extra seat, there's no way I can get back to my rose with this. I'm just gonna go talk to that snake now. So he decides to talk to the snake about suicide. Yay! Oh, and also all the while the little girl and the aviator are now becoming friends. Woo! So yeah. Then he's pretty much saying, the aviator this whole time has pretty much been saying, I'm gonna go see the little prince soon. Yay. It got dark. So, yeah, then he decides to finally tell the little girl the end of the story, which is the little prince dies. Happy ending? So, yeah, now the aviator is pretty much telling her, yeah, I'm dying. So, this gets her pretty upset, and she lashes out at him in a scene where I was just really angry at her. Seriously, you don't talk to old people like that. I had a very good relationship with my grandma, and you know what? I never once lashed out at her, even if I got angry at her. So, you know what, kid? Shut up. So, yeah, I got pretty annoyed at her at that scene, but, yeah, then she sees later that the aviator is now being taken to the hospital for his miscellaneous disease. Seriously, they never say once what he has. He just has a disease, and he's dying. I guess he's dying of old age. I don't know. They don't say. Does he have a disease? Does he have cancer? Does he have Alzheimer's? Does he have diabetes? I don't know. He has something. So, yeah, the little girl tries to go reach him, but the nurse won't let her in. And then after that, she just decides, well, it's hopeless. I might as well leave. So then they go back. Her and her mother go back home, and she goes to sleep, but she won't go to sleep. So she decides to instead sneak out of her house, breaking the gutter, which somehow does not alert her mother that she's gone. And she tries to get into the airplane to start it up. So yeah, this is gonna go well. And surprisingly, she's actually able to fly it. Years of aviation training be damned. She's a little girl. She can fly around. Also, I don't have my push jar. But, Counts. Okay, so yeah, she just starts flying it because she magically learned how, and she gets to a planet with business people and nothing else. Because a planet like that exists, I guess. So there she goes looking for the little prince because he must be on this planet. So surprisingly, she finds him there, except for now he's all grown up. Whatever. So yeah, I don't really care about that. It's supposed to be a dramatic thing, like, oh my god, a kid grew up. This is shocking information. And yeah, pretty much he now completely forgot about everything somehow. And the little girl pretty much is trying to get him to remember everything because she wants him to say bye to the aviator. So yeah, she eventually does get to work through the power of pages, and yay, now he's got his memory back, and he's still a complete loser. So you then find out that apparently the businessman, which is one of the people that the little prince met on his journeys through space, has apparently been collecting stars because he wanted to, I guess. And yeah, no, they never set up the stars being missing from the sky at all. It seriously just spontaneously dropped on you. And then the little prince decides, well, no, I quit and everything. Yeah, I don't care really. This whole entire half an hour is so boring. But pretty much, the little girl and the little prince just sort of leave on their plane after freeing all the stars, which I guess go through the ceiling. And then everyone just quits their jobs, I guess, because this was bad for business? Because the stars gave them lights? Oh no, now they might actually have to get lights for their buildings. Ah, business is ruined! So, yeah. Lights equal disaster, I guess. So now the little prince returns back to his planet, and tragedy is now given to the audience as we find out that the trees have grown on the planet. Oh, and also that the rose has died now, but seriously, did no one expect that? Like, it's been years. Did no one expect this? Also, how those trees grow if there's no water? Like, there's no water on this planet. We never see a rain on here once. And there's a time lapse. We would have seen some rain if there was any. There's not even any clouds. It's just an asteroid. So that can somehow support life. With magic, I guess. So, yeah, is it really a shock that this rose died? But, yeah, the little prince now sees this and is upset until he sees that the sun somehow looks like a rose, so he's happy about it now. Yay. And then he magically transforms back into a kid. Wish I could do that. Like, just remember something from when you were a kid. Look at the sun, and then boom, you're a kid again. That would be amazing, but alas, it does not work that way. So, yeah. He's a kid again, somehow, and he's pretty much telling the little girl, go back home. So she does, and now she's ready to grow up, but not before seeing the aviator one more time. And as he's at the hospital, he doesn't remember her. Until he does, he was just faking it. The jerk! Seriously, that scene made me cry because that reminded me a lot of my grandma, as yeah, she had Alzheimer's and she forgot who I was half of the time that I would visit her. And yeah, like I said before, we had a really close relationship. And that scene really, really tugged at my heartstrings as it was a very personal connection for me. So yeah, seeing him just say, "Oh, gotcha," at the end of that really made me want to hit him in the face. But yeah, she gave him a book that's full of the Little Prince. I wonder if that'll be a bestseller. So yeah, then her mother says thank you because I guess that she's really happy about him now, even though she was angry at him before. I don't know. Maybe just seeing him in the hospital completely changed her perspective on this. And then the mother and the little girl go onto the roof to look at the stars at night, and we hear the aviator and the little prince laughing. Get it? That means that he died. Yeah, we look up to the stars and we hear the aviator and little prince laughing. The aviator says earlier in this movie that he thinks that the little prince pretty much went up into the stars, and he said, yeah, whenever I look up at the night sky, I can hear him laughing. So yeah, he is freaking dead. Thanks for those harsh memories, movie. So angry at this movie sometimes and how it curses it made me remember things. How dare you, movie? How dare you make me remember my grandma? Bad. How dare you make me do... I'm just gonna shut up now. Okay, so yeah, then it ends off with Finn. I guess that this was a French film. So yeah, what did I think of this? Well, to me, the story is a mixed bag. Now, on the one hand, there are two parts of this that I really like. Those being the Little Prince aspect, where they use stop motion animation. Those are really solid parts of this movie, and they are actually pretty charming in their own right. So those scenes are really good, and they are probably the best in the movie. And another group of scenes that I like is the little girl and the aviator's relationship. Both of them seem to have a very natural relationship. They go together very well. And like I said quite a bit in this review, it reminded me a lot of me and my grandma outside of that whole entire getting angry at him scene. That I never did with my grandma. But outside of that, yeah, it really did remind me of me and my grandma. And thus, I had a really personal connection in those scenes. And when I saw the aviator getting taken to the hospital, that part actually made me cry. Because it reminded me a lot of when my grandma had to go to the hospital before she died. This is why I didn't like those memories movie. So yeah, there were a lot of personal connections for me in that part, and I really did like it for that. And even hearing the whole entire thing, like the little prince went to the stars and stuff, that's something that I actually always used to think would happen when people died when I was a kid. That's exactly what I thought. I actually had some stars near my house that would pretty much look like a smiley face, so that I said was my grandma looking down on me. So yeah, another personal tie to this movie that just made me think of my grandma. Again, thanks, movie. But yeah, those scenes are really strong, or at least in my opinion they are. But then we have the stuff with the over-organizing mother and the little girl, which, while sometimes will have their good moments, like, it is kind of funny to see the synchronization between them. And also, that one lashing out scene is pretty good, as, yeah, it does actually bring in reason as to why the mother acts the way that she does. She does it because her father, the father of the little girl, is never there. He apparently is always on business trips. And yeah, she's trying to control her life so much because she wants her daughter to go somewhere really big, and she wants her daughter to have better opportunities. So, yeah, it does make sense in that regard, but still, she didn't need to be overbearing like that. And those parts are pretty negative, as they aren't really that amazing, and they're not really that great. They're just mediocre at best, and at worst, they're pretty boring. Although they can be funny at times. And then we have the last half hour, which, oh my god, why did this happen? Alright, so for the last half hour, this movie really affects my score on the story, as I really didn't like that part. And I really dislike it for a lot of reasons. One, it completely makes the whole entire boy getting bit by the snake thing useless. Like, oh yeah, he commits suicide, except for the fact that he didn't. Like, really, what was with that? I mean, like, okay, these two stories do tie into each other. Was that whole entire snake part just, like, imagined by the aviator or something? I know that this is the kid's dream and all, but still, it really does go on for a half an hour, and it just confuses me because it ties into that story with the little prince where he dies at the end, but here he's just magically still alive because reasons, I guess. I don't know. He's just alive and working for that businessman guy. But at first, these parts of the movie were alright, because there were nice little subtle things, like seeing that guy, like the one who tips his hat a lot, that guy's there, so seeing him there is kind of a nice little subtle thing. And also seeing the king being the guy who mans the elevator was also a nice touch, but once you see him, you know that the businessman is the one in charge of all this, so that takes away all that shock. Also, am I the only one who noticed this, but the guy who ran that school thing, he was the guy who asked her that question at the academy audition. Yeah, am I the only one who noticed that? That was just really weird to me. Like, why? He asked her what she wanted to be when she grew up. Why would she imagine him as someone who would just force her to grow up? He apparently did think about her interests, but yeah, now she imagines him as some guy who would force her to grow up no matter what. Also, this whole entire scene just really drags on. It stays in there for a half an hour, and nothing, and all it does is just beat you over the head with the whole entire, oh yeah, be a kid, don't worry about growing up, just remember being a kid, and then you'll be one of the weirdest grown-ups in the universe. But, yeah, that's pretty much the message of this whole scene, of this whole entire thing, is just, remember being a kid, but it's alright to grow up too. So mature and also don't mature? I don't know. Now, there is at least a good part at the end of this where the little prince does go back to his planet. From there, it is pretty good again, but still, we had a whole entire half an hour that we can never get back, and it's seriously very, very boring and just beats you over the head. That was probably my biggest problem with the film, that, and it completely takes away the whole entire Little Prince segments that were in stop motion. Those become completely invalid, as, yeah, okay, they do still have ties into the story, so you did need to hear them, but yeah, as a continuation of it, it still makes no sense. I think I would have preferred it if the Little Prince, or at least the guy who she thought was the Little Prince, turned out to be someone else. If that had happened, I probably wouldn't have minded this part of the story. That would have tied into the message that the Little Prince segments were supposed to be teaching, that, yeah, people die. It happens. Sometimes you don't get where you're going. But, yeah, when it turns out that the little prince is there and then gets back to his own planet, that completely gets rid of that. I would have preferred it if it was someone else, and the little girl actually had to meet with the harsh reality that, yeah, the aviator is gonna die. It's gonna happen. She's gonna need to meet it. I would have preferred it if that's what actually ended up happening, but alas, it doesn't, and the rest of that whole entire thing was just really boring. Although it did have Paul Reed voicing Mr. Prince, so that's something. Not really. Although at least now I can say that Ant-Man was the little prince, so that's cool. But yeah, all in all, I'm going to give it 6.5 out of 10. Because of that last half an hour and that other aspect with the little girl and the mother being very overbearing. Granted, those would bring out some emotional times, but yeah, all in all, they were really boring, but there were also some pretty good aspects to it, like the little prince stuff is really good, and the aviator and the little girl's relationship is also very emotional, and I do like it. Especially as I do have a connection to that part of it. But yeah, those other two parts are pretty bad, and I can see why they would bring down points for other people, and yeah, they really do for me too. So, yeah, now let's go into the characters. So for the characters, we are going to start off with the little girl. Who, yeah, still doesn't have a name. I'm just gonna call her Linda, because they both start with an L. Little girl and Linda. There. Now she has a name. Her name is Linda now. And just like her name suggests, she's the little girl. That is her personality, pretty much. That and also being very predictable. As, yeah, you know exactly where her story arc is going from the second that you see her. When you first meet her, she's trying really hard to get into a school and stuff like that. Oh my god, she is so boring. Like, as a character, yeah, I know that she was supposed to be generic, and that's the point of her character, but yeah, there's nothing really that different about her. She's just a little girl, and that's it. Nothing else. So yeah, she doesn't really stand on her own that well, and as a character, she's not really that amazing in any department. Although I do still love her relationship with the aviator, as that part really does give her more depth in her character. But yeah, all in all, as just a character, she doesn't really have that much to her. And even when she does get development, it's not really that great, and it's very, very predictable. Though, again, her stuff with the aviator is still nice, and I do like that part. So, now that I've been talking about the aviator, let's talk about him. So, he's pretty fun. Even though, yeah, I have seen his character quite a lot of places, and him being the old guy, but he's very eccentric, and he's weird, but he's nice, and he's kind, and he's a nice guy, and everyone should love him, but no one understands him, and oh my god, we see this. This has been done a lot, but for good reason. I do like these characters, so yeah, I do like him. And he does have a little bit more depth to him, as he does know, with the whole entire him trying to tell the little girl that he's dying thing. That does add a little bit more depth to him, and yeah, it is actually pretty nice to see. Also that, and him going to the hospital thing, that really does get emotional, and it's pretty sad. That and the little girl and his relationship is very good, and I really do like that aspect to this movie. So then after him, we have the mother, who is alright, I guess. Okay, so yeah, there's nothing really that great about her. She's just kind of the mother, but she's at least cartoonal. At least she's cartoonily obsessed with trying to get her daughter into a good school. Really, she's freaking obsessed with that. I don't know why, but yeah, she's obsessed with it for whatever reason. And she's alright. Like, I at least do like that reveal as to why she does act like this, and that does give her a bit more character and depth to her, but overall, she's not really that great as a. Just like her daughter, she's not really that great as a character and doesn't really do anything outside of go overboard with her trying to get her daughter's life on track thing. So, yeah, outside of that, she's not really that different from any other character that would follow this trope. Although at least at the end, she makes things right with her daughter. Yeah, so yeah, then after her, we're getting on to the title character, the Little Prince. And he's really likable. Like, the scenes with him and the Aviator are very good. I didn't get to talk about that with the Aviator, so yeah, those scenes are really good. But the whole entire, but every scene with the Little Prince is pretty good, and they are very strong parts of this movie. Apparently, these are the parts taken directly from the book, and yeah, they are the best parts in this movie. So maybe I should read that book. Nah, I don't want to. So yeah, it was a really good part of this movie. And then after him, and yeah, okay, to sum him up, he's a really good character. He's very childlike, he's very hopeful, and yeah, he's pretty likable. And even in his death decision is pretty sad. So yeah, I'll give him credit for that. So then after him we have his fox, who I think might have some self-loathing issues, as he's pretty much acting like, no, I don't want to be tamed, I don't want to be tamed, but tame me. Like, why is that? Just like, yeah, I don't want to be tamed, but please tame me. Because I hate myself, I guess. So, yeah, he apparently really wanted to be tamed. Then after, like, a day, he's tamed. I don't know. Like, they never show the little prince actually taming this fox. He just... The fox just tells him, you have to tame me, and then all of a sudden, he's tamed him. I would say how long this took. It's not like a How to Train Your Dragon thing, where he's trying and trying. Nope. Just like a day. So, that's something. Although I do at least like this fox in both of his character incarnations as, well, the fox in the stop motion bits, and also as the plush fox, which both of them are pretty good and I do like. Although the plush fox did bring out some more laughs, which, yeah, that's his point, but at least he is there for a reason, and he does have a tie-in, so it's not like he's just there just to be there so people can actually stop crying for a little bit about how the old man's going to die of some random unknown disease, and or maybe just old age, and the little girl's gonna have to deal with that, and the little prince committed suicide. So yeah, they're gonna have to try and move past that with a little lovable fox running around. That'll ignore it for all those probably crying kids. So yeah, hope that worked for some of them. Didn't work for me. So then after the fox, we have the rose, who is incredibly annoying. Really, she's supposed to be annoying, and she fills that job. She's just sort of there to be vain the whole time, and I will at least say that she succeeds. And then we have Mr. Prince, who, yes, I will be talking about as a different character, since, yeah, him and the little prince don't really have that many similarities to them. So, Mr. Prince is pretty much biggest problem with the last half hour. Again, I don't know how he survived. He just does. And yeah, what happened to him? Did they brainwash him or something? Like, now he's completely forgotten everything about that, everything that we heard in that story because drama, I guess. And yeah, he's just now working for the businessman and really, really doesn't want to get fired. It's pretty much it with him. He just doesn't want to get fired. That is until he learns, oh yeah, I do have a past. Somehow I forgot about my past. Guess I won't question that. So yeah, he automatically remembers it when he looks at stars, and then he's just on board with doing insane things that he probably wouldn't have done beforehand. So yeah, guess that's how that works. And then they just sort of leave on a plane because they can breathe in space somehow. So yeah, Mr. Prince then figures out, oh yeah, I have this pass and this, and I gotta do that. Yeah, he's a pretty boring character, and he's pretty much the main reason why I don't like the ending. His character, for one, pretty much makes all that stuff with the Little Prince pretty pointless, and also he really is just beating you over the head with its message that no, 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 no. What you have to do really is just remember to be a kid while also remembering to be an adult. So it's mixed messages, and it's also one beating you over the head message. And yeah, that's pretty much what this character is incarnate. Though I will at least say that the voice acting's nice. So that's something for him. Then after him, we have all the random people that I met on this quest. The king, that self-centered guy, and the businessman. They're kind of shoehorned into the last half hour, and their parts are fine. It's at least a decent continuation of their stories, and yeah, it is kind of funny at times to see them come back. Probably my favorite one out of all of them was the king, as his role isn't that big. He only shows up once, and that's just to command the elevator, and he does bring in a nice little callback to what he did before. So he's probably my favorite out of these three that came back, but the self-centered man is also pretty alright. The businessman turning into the main villain, however, I don't get why that happened, but I at least did really like his voice acting and his design. He is very impacting, and I do at least think that he is a cool villain, or at least the way that he's a cool villain, but as a villain, he's not really that great. He just is kind of cool. So yeah, for the characters, I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. They're alright, but some of them just shine stronger than others, and yeah, that can pretty much be said for a lot of them. So yeah, 7 out of 10. Let's get on to the animation. For the animation, it's just as mixed as the story was, since there are two different parts of it. One of them, and the first one that I'm going to be talking about, is the computer animated segments, which are alright. Sometimes it can be pretty detailed in that part, which, yeah, then it's nice to look at, but most of the time it's pretty simplistic, and while that can have its own charm to it, it's not really anything different. I mean, the simplistic look has been used a lot, and yeah, this one doesn't really do anything special with it, so it's not really that great. But I will at least say that it is alright, although it has an amazing color palette. Everything that's not related to the aviator is gray, and everything that is bright and colorful. So yeah, you can really see the difference, because just like the last half hour, you need it being over your head. So yeah, for those things, it's alright. But Then we have the stop motion animation, which I really like. Now, stop motion animation is one of my favorite types of animation. In fact, it's my second, and yeah, I really like the way it's used here. For one, it's very stylized. Even when we first see the aviator landing in the Sahara Desert, he looks like a piece of paper, and he looks hand-drawn. Although maybe he is, I don't know. For that segment, he just looked different than he does the rest of it, but I don't know, maybe he is. Maybe this movie just wanted to combine every form of animation, I don't know. But I really, really did like their style here. Now, one thing that makes this animation and stop motion very different is that instead of trying to hide what type of materials they're using, like most stop motion animated features, this one is really trying to get you to notice it. Like, for example, look at that fox that you use for the animation picture. Look at his tail. You can tell that's just making out a piece of cloth, but they really want to emphasize that. And not only is that a bold move, it's also really, really cool to look at. And it makes their animation style very unique, and I really did like it. In fact, I wish that they had kept this animation style a little bit longer, because it is really great. And it also affects all the characters in these segments, which as well look great. And when you see them immigrate into 2D animation, like with the computer animation and stuff, it's not as great. Like, it's alright, but it's not as great as it was in stop motion, where there it's much more stylized and it has a unique look to it, whereas when it's in 3D animation, it's just okay. I mean, they don't translate horribly into it, but they also don't translate that great into it. So, for the animation, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10, mainly for those stop motion parts, which are very, very unique, and I really did love. And they had a very unique look to them, and are very stylized. Whereas the computer animated parts aren't bad, per se, they are alright, and I will at least say that there are some pretty nicely animated bits there, but the stop motion parts where it really shines. So, what do I think about this movie overall? Well, it is okay. Very, very, very okay. Now, for one, this is one of the very few movies that has actually gotten me to cry. Again, because of the relationship I have with my grandmother and how that is reflective in this story. But yeah, that part did make me cry, and this is one out of the 3 movies that have gotten to do that to me. So yeah, I will give it credit where credit's due on that. And there are some pretty good moments with it, as the little prince parts and the relationship between the aviator and the little girl are very, very reflective on. But then there's also the other stuff. Some of the characters are pretty bland, although there are others who are very good. And the animation, while it can be beautiful at times and very interesting to look at, there are other times where it's just pretty bland. Not that bad, but bland. And though it can have some detail to it, it doesn't really save it, as there are other companies that can do it a bit better. So, yeah. That and their heads are big. Seriously, that little girl's head just looks like it'll flop over on her neck. Am I the one who noticed that? It's like, really, her head, her neck, it's so small. But, yeah. There's an animation error there, so I don't know. Was that what they were going for? That her head looks like it should fall over or something? Like, is that what they were going for? But The animation, though, can be very, very cool at times and can be very stylized, and I do like it a lot when it's in stop motion. And the characters, again, aren't that great at times, but they're also pretty good at times, and the story juggles it around too, so it's all mediocre. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. It doesn't really even out exactly, but it kind of does, and I'm just gonna settle and say it's alright. So, for this movie, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, as there were a lot of really good aspects to it, and I do highly recommend checking it out, because there are a lot of good things to it. Just maybe skip over that last half hour and just wait till they get back to the aviator at the hospital, or when the little girl comes back inside, because all you'll really miss is her falling. Just like after she falls, just like leave that part alone. Because you don't need to see the rest. Trust me, you don't. So yeah, 7 out of 10. It is an alright movie. Not bad, but, and there are a lot of great things in it, but there are also some pretty bad things in it, so it's very mixed to me. And next week, I will be looking at the Guyver. Not MacGyver, the Guyver. So yeah. Bye.